All right, gearheads and history buffs, strap in. We talk a lot about American muscle, German engineering, and Italian style on this channel, and for good reason. But today we're taking a detour, a big one. We're heading behind the Iron Curtain, into a world where a car wasn't just a symbol of freedom, but a tool for the state, where the design philosophy was less about horsepower and more about, well, just making it work. We're counting down the 10 best communist cars of the Soviet era. Now, best here is a flexible term. We're talking about the most iconic, the most influential, the most interesting pieces of automotive history to come out of the Eastern Bloc. These are the cars that mobilized a superpower, defined life for millions, and some of which are still kicking around today against all odds. This is a story of grit, ingenuity, and sometimes sheer absurdity. So, if you're ready to see what the other side was driving, hit that subscribe button, and let's get this Cold War convoy.
Number 10. So, we're starting our list with a car that makes a Volvo look flamboyant. This is the Moskvitch 412. And if you're wondering what it was like to own a car designed by a committee of engineers who only had a hammer and a sickle, this is it. But don't let its bland exterior fool you, this was the Soviet Union's earnest attempt to compete on the world stage. Introduced in the late 1960s, the Moskvitch 412 was actually a pretty decent car for its time. It featured an overhead cam engine, which was relatively advanced, and it wasn't a complete slouch. It even found some success in international rallying, which the Soviet propaganda machine was all too happy to promote. But the real story of the Moskvitch is in its build quality, or lack thereof. Owners would often find surprises. Maybe a few extra bolts left over after reassembly, or paint that was thinner than a politician's promise. To get a real sense of the Moskvitch's character, its groans, its rattles, its sheer Soviet-ness, you've got to hear this thing in action. Check out this clip of one being put through its paces. It's a symphony of mechanical sympathy. Look at this profile. It's not styled, it's arranged. Every line has a purpose, and that purpose is usually to save money. But for many Soviet citizens, getting your hands on a Moskvitch was a huge achievement. It represented a tiny piece of personal mobility in a society that wasn't built for it. It was flawed, it was basic, but it was theirs. And for that, the Moskvitch 412 earns its spot at number 10. Number 9. Okay, let's head down to the Balkans. Up next is a car that proves communism wasn't a monolith. Every satellite state had its own automotive quirks. From Yugoslavia, we have the Zastava Yugo. Yes, that Yugo. Now, I can hear you laughing from here, and trust me, I get it. In America, the Yugo became a punchline, the cheapest new car you could buy. But its story is way more fascinating than its reputation suggests. The Yugo was essentially a licensed, and some would say butchered, version of the Fiat 127. It was built in Yugoslavia with the specific goal of being an everyman's car. And for a brief, shining moment, it was going to bring affordable motoring to the masses in the West. The problem was, cost-cutting was the number one priority. The build quality was, let's call it variable. There are legendary stories of Yugos arriving in the US with parts missing, loose wiring, and a general feeling that it was assembled by someone who had just heard a description of a car. But to truly understand the Yugo experience, you need to see what it's like to actually drive one. It's an exercise in managing expectations. Take a look at this video of a road test. It's a masterclass in automotive optimism. Despite its infamous reputation, the Yugo has a certain charm. It's a symbol of an attempt to bridge the East-West divide, a project born from a non-aligned nation. It was simple to fix, cheap to run, and for many people in Eastern Europe, it was their first car. It's a rolling lesson in context. For its incredible global impact and its status as a cultural icon of failure-turned-folk hero, the Zastava Yugo is our number 9. Number 8. Now we're getting into the heavy hitters. Literally. This is the Gaz Chaika, which means seagull. But don't let the gentle name fool you, this was a beast. This was the car for the Soviet nomenclature of the high-ranking party officials, the ministers, the secret police bosses. This was the closest thing the USSR had to a Cadillac Fleetwood, a land yacht for the proletarian elite. The Chaika was massive, powered by a 5.5-liter V8 engine, and built like a tank. It was dripping with chrome and had a presence that screamed "Get out of my way." Ordinary citizens couldn't buy one, you had to be allocated one based on your position in the party hierarchy. Owning a Chaika wasn't about transportation, it was about power and privilege in a society that claimed to have abolished it. The sound of that V8 is unlike anything else from that part of the world. It's a deep, rumbling, authoritarian burble. Listen to this short clip. You can almost hear the state secrets inside. The Chaika is a paradox. It's a symbol of the very class system that communism was supposed to destroy. It's over-engineered, incredibly inefficient, and represents a level of luxury that was completely inaccessible to the average Soviet citizen. But as a piece of automotive history and a symbol of Soviet power, it's utterly fascinating. For its role as the Tsar Mobile of the communist era, the Gaz Chaika glides in at number 8. Number 7. Time to get our hands dirty. We're leaving the paved streets of Moscow for the rough trails of Siberia. This is the US 469. This isn't a car, it's a tool. Think of it as the Soviet Jeep, or the Land Rover Defender that never got the memo about comfort. This thing was built for one purpose, to go anywhere the Red Army needed it to, and to do it as simply as possible. The US is brutally simple. It has a leaf spring suspension, a 4-cylinder engine that runs on basically anything that burns, and a body made of what feels like recycled battleships. There are no frills. The doors are often removable, the roof is canvas, and the heating system was apparently an optional extra that nobody ever opted for. But its off-road capability is legendary. It will go places that would make a modern SUV cry for its mommy. You have to see this thing in its natural element, completely abusing a muddy trail. This video shows you exactly why this box on wheels is so respected by off-road enthusiasts. The US 469 wasn't just for the military. It became a vital workhorse for collective farms, geological surveys, and anyone who lived in the vast, roadless hinterlands of the USSR. It's the ultimate embodiment of form following function. It's uncomfortable, it's loud, it's crude, and it absolutely does not care. It will outlast us all. For its sheer, unstoppable utility, the US 469 grinds its way into number 7. Number 6. Alright, prepare for a plot twist. What if I told you the Soviet bloc made a car that was actually beautiful? A car with sleek lines, a fiberglass body, and genuine sports car intentions? Meet the Melkus RS 1000 from East Germany. This is the car that proves that even in the grayest of societies, the human desire for speed and style could not be extinguished. The Melkus was the brainchild of Heinz Melkus, a race car driver who used his connections and ingenuity to create something truly special. It featured a 3-seater layout with a central driving position, just like a McLaren F1, but decades earlier. It was powered by a tuned engine from the humble Wartburg, a car we'll talk about later, and had gull-wing doors. Gull-wing doors. In East Germany. This was a hand-built exotic car, produced in tiny numbers for the party elite and successful athletes. It was a bizarre, wonderful anomaly. To see those gull-wing doors in action and hear its distinctive 2-stroke engine, you need to check out this footage. The Melkus RS 1000 is a dreamer's car. It's a testament to what passionate individuals can achieve, even within a system designed to suppress individual ambition. It's fragile, complex, and utterly brilliant. It's the ultimate what-if car of the Eastern Bloc. For its sheer audacity and breathtaking beauty, the Melkus RS 1000 soars into number 6. Number 5. We're at the halfway point, and it's time for something completely different. If you thought the Yugo was basic, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is the Zaporozhye ZAZ 965. Affectionately, or not so affectionately, known as the Hippo because of its wide, rounded rear end. This was the Soviet people's car, their answer to the Volkswagen Beetle. And it is glorious. The Zaporozhye is famous for two things: its air-cooled V4 engine in the rear, and its legendary lack of reliability. It was slow, incredibly noisy, and prone to breaking down in creative ways. But for the first time, it put millions of ordinary Soviet citizens behind the wheel. It was cheap, simple, and it could be fixed with a hammer, a wrench, and a healthy dose of optimism. The sound of this car is unmistakable. It's a buzzing, rattling, metallic symphony. To get the full Zaporozhye's experience, you have to hear it struggling to reach top speed. It's both sad and hilarious. The Zaporozhye is more than a car, it's a cultural touchstone. It represents the grim, gritty, but also strangely hopeful reality of everyday life in the USSR. It was flawed, but it was a start. It mobilized a nation and created a generation of drivers and amateur mechanics. For its iconic status and its role as the true car of the people, the Zaporozhye ZAZ 965 splutters and bangs its way to number 5. Number 4. We're entering the top 4, and we're going to Czechoslovakia. This is the Skoda 120 Estelle. Now, to many in the West, especially in the UK, Skoda was a joke for decades. But the 120, particularly the estate version, was a genuinely clever and robust car. It was the sensible shoe of the Eastern Bloc, and it was everywhere. The Skoda 120 had a secret weapon, a rear engine, rear-wheel drive layout, much like a Porsche 911. Okay, that's where the comparison ends, but this configuration, combined with a lightweight body, made it a surprisingly capable and balanced handler. It was so good that it became a dominant force in European rallycross for years, beating far more powerful and expensive cars. It was the underdog that could. To see how a humble communist grocery getter could be transformed into a tire-smoking rally monster, you have to watch this insane footage. Beyond the racing track, the Skoda 120 was a dependable workhorse for families across the Eastern Bloc and beyond. It was well built by communist standards, relatively comfortable, and had that clever engineering that made it a favorite among tinkerers. It's the car that slowly but surely began to change the perception of Eastern Bloc automobiles. For its surprising performance, its everyday practicality, and its underdog spirit, the Skoda 120 Estelle earns a solid number 4. Number 3. We're in the top 3, and we've arrived at arguably the most successful communist car of all time. This is the Lada Riva, and its earlier incarnation, the Vaz 2101 Jiguli. But what you're really looking at is a Fiat 124. In one of the greatest, and most ironic, stories of the Cold War, the Soviets licensed the Fiat 124 from Italy, a capitalist country, and turned it into their own national icon. The Italians sent over their blueprints, and the Soviet engineers did what they do best: they made it stronger. They thickened the steel, simplified the mechanics, and re-engineered the suspension to handle the apocalyptic roads of rural Russia. The result was a car that was heavier and slower than the Fiat, but famously durable. The Lada was exported all over the world, from Canada to the UK to South America, becoming a symbol of affordable, no-frills transportation. The sound of a Lada's starter motor and its engine is the sound of a million cold mornings in the Soviet Union. It's a sound of grim determination. Listen to this. The Lada is the ultimate communist car success story. It was built for decades with minimal changes because the design just worked. It was easy to fix, cheap to run, and could survive conditions that would kill a more delicate machine. It's the automotive equivalent of a Kalashnikov rifle, simple, effective, and produced in staggering numbers. For its global reach and legendary toughness, the Lada Riva takes a proud number 3. Number 2. We are down to the final 2, and this is where things get really interesting. Coming in at number 2 is a car that is, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant and influential vehicles ever designed, from any country. This is the Lada Niva. Don't let the cute looks fool you, this little 4x4 is a genuine automotive legend. When the Niva was launched in 1977, it revolutionized the 4x4 world. While other off-roaders were still based on rugged, truck-like platforms, the Niva was the first to combine a unibody chassis with a coil-sprung independent front suspension. What does that mean in plain English? It was incredibly capable off-road, but it was also relatively comfortable and easy to drive on the road. It was a blueprint that every modern SUV, from the Jeep Cherokee to the Toyota RAV4, would later follow. The Niva's off-road prowess is just mind-blowing. It can go places that defy physics. Watch this short clip of a stock Niva doing things it has no right to do. The Niva is still in production today, with only minor changes. It's loved by farmers, explorers, and off-road enthusiasts from the Alps to the Outback. It's a masterpiece of pragmatic engineering. It proves that you don't need complex electronics and massive horsepower to be brilliant, you just need a clever design and a purpose-built ethos. The Lada Niva is, without a doubt, the greatest idea to ever come out of the Soviet automotive industry. But it's not number 1. Number 1. Now standing next to a beautifully preserved, curvy, classic-looking sedan from the 1950s. This is it. The number 1 spot. The best communist car of the Soviet era. And for this, we have to go back to the beginning. To a car that wasn't just a copy, but a symbol of post-war recovery and national pride. The number 1 car is the Gaz M20 Pobeda. And Pobeda, in Russian, means victory. The Pobeda was introduced in 1946, and it was years ahead of its time. Look at this shape, it's a fastback. This was one of the first cars in the world to feature a Pantone body, where the fenders are integrated into the main bodywork, a design that wouldn't become mainstream in the West for another several years. It was designed from the ground up as a Soviet car, for Soviet conditions. It was robust, had a roomy interior, and could handle rough roads. But the Pobeda is number one because of what it represented. This car was a rolling monument to the Soviet victory in World War II. It was a signal to the world that the USSR was not just a military power, but an industrial and technological one as well. It was a statement of resilience and ambition. To see the sheer presence and elegance of this Soviet masterpiece, watch this beautifully filmed walk around. It's a true classic car. The Pobeda was built strong and simple, and it served not just in the USSR, but was licensed and built in Poland and China for decades. It set the template for an entire generation of Soviet automobiles. It was the first truly great Soviet car. It has the style, the historical significance, and the engineering innovation to stand above all the others. The Gaz M20 Pobeda is more than a car, it's a piece of history on wheels, and it is our number one communist car of the Soviet era. And there you have it. From the victorious Pobeda to the utilitarian UAZ, from the laughable Yugo to the legendary Niva. These cars are more than just metal and rubber, they're time capsules. They tell a story of a unique and closed-off world, of a different set of priorities, and of the universal human desire for mobility. These machines were born from a system that doesn't exist anymore, but they live on in junkyards, in collections, and on the roads of the developing world, still doing their job. They remind us that the story of the automobile isn't just one of horsepower and luxury, it's also a story of grit, simplicity, and sometimes, just making do with what you have. If you enjoyed this trip behind the Iron Curtain, if you love diving into the weird and wonderful corners of automotive history, then do me a huge favor, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're always digging up new stories and uncovering forgotten metal right here on this channel. Let me know in the comments below, which of these communist classics would you most want to drive? A rugged Niva? A luxurious Chaika? Or maybe the quirky Malkus? I read every single one. Thanks for watching, folks. Keep exploring, and remember, history is always riding shotgun.